How frightfully awful. How despicable. How dare they? Dare they? Ghastly. How ghastly. How frightfully, awfully ghastly. How dare they? Ghastly. How ghastly. Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. Now today I'm going to do something a little bit different from the usual, positive outlook. Well, actually this is positive because we can learn from this, especially if we use this as things to look out for when buying a watch, then it is constructive. But anyway, this is a response to a simply amazing post in your beloved group, the UGWC. I just went out for lunch. This is my wristwatch check. I'm wearing the Dubé and Charles brand Rattrapante or Rattrapante. Great conversation starter because you can just engage that chronograph split second, the index mobile, and it's always, people are always enthralled by it. So great watch. Well, it's definitely my dress watch, and I'm still absolutely loving it. So anyway, that is my wristwatch check. So let's get into this. Now I'm going to try and breeze through this as fast as I can. Bear in mind, oh my god, there are 493 comments. It's still going. I'm just going to load all the comments. I'm going to try and, if you could keep count, that would be great, but I'll try and get to 100. So let's kick off with the first post, which was Pierce, who actually was the original person who shared this in the group. Thank you, Pierce. Outstanding. Pierce said, lugs that are too short. Absolutely. Jose says, printings on the dial that do not correspond to actual functions. Interesting. I don't think I've actually seen that yet, but maybe I've been lucky. Colin says excessively busy dials. Yeah, well, that's more of a matter of taste. Alex says leather on divers. I presume he's talking about straps. Not even about the practicality of it. Something just looks off 99% of the time. Yeah, I kind of agree. Having said that, vintage subs on a distressed strap do kind of look nice. There was a long thread and discussion on that, but yeah, more of a, I guess, taste, but I can understand that. Non-quick set dates, absolutely. Ghastly, Ralph says, absolutely. Kevin says, people saying deployment instead of deployment. I'm totally guilty of that. I used to say deployment all the time. William says, we'll never own a Seiko. Oh, you're missing out, my friend. You're missing out. John says excessively long lugs, so not too short like earlier. I agree. Something that kind of annoyed me a little bit about the Legend Diver, the Longines Legend Diver. Stephen just says Quartz. Oh. And as you can imagine, the response to that was quite incredible. Matty says tag. Just says tag. I don't understand what the fuss is about tag. I think they make some great watches. There was a really good discussion. I forget who it was, who went into the history of tag and Heuer and all the rest of it, especially in the 90s. And yeah, it's a divisive, certainly divisive, and a pet peeve for a lot of people. I can understand. I don't agree, but I can understand. Narrator says tall ass lugs. Right, I've yet to experience that, but I can imagine that must be quite annoying. Ryan says, goddamn creepy refinished dials. I agree there. I agree. There are some exceptions. If it's... Let's not get into that. Maybe another video. Augustine says, quartz in analog watches, only digital. I'm not sure what he means there. Ryan says, unnecessarily thick cases, especially when the movement is way smaller. Totally agree with that. Blair says NATO straps. Oh, but he goes on to say, I'd rather get the sense I'm alone on that. Not at all. A lot of people despise NATO straps. We'll convert you. Resistance is futile. We'll get to you. We'll get to you. Dennis says integrated lugs that make the strap choices impossible. I agree. I agree. The only watch I kind of forgive is the Aquis because it's such a lovable design. I do think it's integral to its design. But then again, you can get adapters. But yeah, it makes the options. Yeah, very true. Big peeve for a lot of people. John says big, and I mean big watches. Absolutely spot on, my friend. I totally agree. Unless it's big for a purpose, like a Flieger or a Plo Prof or whatever. Yeah, it doesn't need to be big. Bertram says hands that don't touch the indices. Well, personally, I don't like my hands to touch anything, but I know what you mean. You mean hands that don't reach the indices, I guess you mean. Anyway, yeah, I can understand that. Yaniv says oversized or undersized watches for a person wrist. Yeah, it could go either way. Spot on, absolutely agree. And he goes on to say, and Gucci watches, laugh out loud. I've never worn a Gucci watch, so I can't honestly comment, but obviously you have. And yeah, Marcus says diesel watches. Again, actually I can comment on this because I have had the experience, so I feel qualified. The diesel watch I saw was just unnecessarily big, 4 or 5 dials. It was just unnecessarily busy, and it was more kind of steampunk fashion statement rather than an actual watch. But yeah, I can agree. Fernando says Cyclops on the crystal. Yeah, that is again a divisive one. Paul says no second hand on the watch that costs thousands. You know who you are. Nudge, nudge, Patek, he says. And actually somebody posted a very nice Lange. I think this has more to do with that very traditional mid-century obsession with making a watch as minimal as possible for a dress watch, and you can even take it a step further by having no indices, so like a gala watch. If you remember that little Seiko gala watch I had, you couldn't really tell what the time was, and you're not supposed to. But yeah, I can understand that. Having said that, I do love the Traumatic, the Hamilton. Greg says nothing is worse than features that don't actually do anything. Subdials with no markers, movement watches, I'm looking at you. I know exactly the watch you're talking about, and I agree. Why would you have subdials with no markers? There's no point to the subdial. I mean, it can't even read a measurement. It's totally, yeah, I totally agree with that one.
Pure ghastly.
Matthew says Panerai too big. Just Panerai too big. I actually think it's a good thing because then I don't have to buy one. But I know there are some smaller ones anyway. Chris says electric movements. Has to be mechanical, damn it! Exclamation mark. Otherwise, why wear it? Interesting. I love electronic. I love digital. I love Ani-Digi. I mean, I guess it's preference. Chris also goes on to say helium escape valves. They are kind of over-engineering. I mean, you're going to die if you dive to that depth. But, I mean, who really goes, deep diving to that extreme? Very few people. Actually, guys, if there's any of you that have actually used a helium escape valve legitimately, please do share down below. I'd love to hear that. RR says $4,000 quartz watches. Yeah, I can understand that. It is difficult to justify. Well, I'm almost guilty. I had a quartz day date at one point. No, not day date. Sorry, oyster quartz. Linus says Mercedes hands. Why? I guess you're just tired of them. Lewis says chopped numbers. Now I know a lot of you will relate to that. Thankfully, oh no, I'm looking at this. There is a slightly chopped off 4 on my my Dubé and Chardonnay. Yeah, so what he's referring to is on the dial when you have numbers on the numerals. Maybe it's a chronograph and you'll have a subdial cut off numbers. Numerals, sorry. Tamas says big golden watches. Understated is more classy, certainly, but then again, there are some classy gold tone watches, but this isn't really that big. Rafa says fashion watches, no excuse. Well, I think you're among friends here. Tom says any watch that costs less than $50,000. I think Tom was joking because I have seen Tom's collection, and well, unless you've been promoted or won the lottery really recently, yeah, he's joking. Michael says anything over 47 millimeters. So World War II fliegers are obviously out, out of the question for you. Fake chronograph dials, he also says, yeah, I agree. What's the point? Ron says, and this is a touchy one, homage watches. Yeah, I've made, and I still stand by the video I made years ago about homage watches. I'm kind of on the fence, but I can understand. I can certainly understand. Justin says replicas, absolutely spot on. I totally agree, and a lot of people said that. Salvador, my good friend Salvador, he says not perfectly aligned hands. I agree. I totally agree. And that really has more to do with QC, I guess. Another one for replicas. Adam says two-tone watches and Cyclops magnifiers. He's not a fan of American Seiko, obviously.
Don't touch the watch.
Nathan says gold watches that aren't actually gold. Oh, no. Having said that, I mean, if this was gold, I'd have to pay, I don't know, 10 grand for it, and I don't think I have the budget right now. So Livon says no NATOs. So just as we said, somebody has the test NATOs, we have somebody that says no NATOs. So yeah, it works both ways. Rory says all of these first world problems, laugh out loud. Absolutely. Chris says date windows. I know what FUCK day it is, exclamation mark. Chris, you sound a little bit cheesed off there. Justin says fashion watches that are a little pricey with, and I'm not going to repeat this a swear word, but with let's just say not very nice movements in them. You know, the issue with that, and like we discussed, I've discussed in numerous videos, I think it's got more to do with, especially as watch enthusiasts, we can't help but think, oh, what you could have bought with that money, you know. But having said that, I get emails every day saying I was about to buy a Daniel Wellington or a Movement or a Michael Kors, and then I saw your video, and then I bought you know, an Orient Bambino, this, that and the other, and they get into the hobby, and then it's fantastic. We get more and more viewers and supporters and enthusiasts every day. So the message is getting out there. Mario says wearing more than one's timepiece at the same time. Oh, he's not a fan of the Schwarzkopf. Fair enough. Look, I totally understand that. He says it's hideous thing to do 99.9% of the time. Well, I agree. I'm not trying to make excuses, but sometimes when I have to review a watch, I also want to wear a watch to compare its accuracy. It does come in useful. And actually, when I time something, but yet I'm also want to enjoy it, one of my automatics, or keep track of multiple time zones like Schwarzkopf did, it comes in useful. But I do understand it is not to everyone's taste, and I don't care what I look like. I mean, I wouldn't be on YouTube if I did, but yeah, it's a lot of people get offended. But then again, you know, if you're so easily offended, is the internet the right place for you, you know? Pierce says sports watches with less than 100 meters water resistance. I tend to agree, although I don't think I've ever gone further than a couple of meters, but that's the whole point. They're for the swimming pool, obviously. Joe says watches on the right wrist. Well, if you are left-handed, I don't see a problem with it, but I guess if you're not used to seeing it, it can look a little bit strange, perhaps. I know people that wear watches on either. John says Apple Watch. Logan says California dials. Make up your damn mind, he says. I kind of like them. Again, taste. David says watches without sapphire glass. I make exceptions for the likes of G-Shock, but anything over $300 to $400 should have it. I can understand that. Then again, you're obviously not a fan of vintage watches or anything when did they introduce it? In the 90s, wasn't it? Very good point. Shay says watch snobs. Absolutely. There is, yeah, it's classless behavior. It's, yeah, I totally agree. Ghastly. Noel says any watch with obvious shortcomings in relation to the retail price. Very, very good point. Nice one, NV. Paul says counterfeit watches. Again, fake watch. You know I draw the line in the sand on this channel. And that will never, ever change. I will go to my grave with that one. Daniel says just Daniel Wellington, just Daniel Wellington. Oh, not a fan there. Darius, NATO's on a dress watch. Even I draw the line at watches with Roman numerals with a NATO strap. For some reason I can't do it, but everyone has that limit, but I guess that's yours. Jamie says oversized watches. I agree, should really match your scale and size. Paul says excessive Seiko posts. don't log in on Seiko Saturday. Yeah, I know, but look guys, it's I think the main thing to remember is with any community or any interactive experience, it's give and take. If you are fed up of seeing Rolexes or countless Amigas or countless Seikos, post something else. Post the beautiful Vacheron Constantin. Just post something different. We all gotta contribute. But good point, Paul. I can understand if you're not into the watches or haven't been enlightened to what they have to offer. It can be a little bit annoying. Yeah, I can relate to that. Liam says people posting a pic of their box and asking us to guess what's inside. Oh, harsh. I kind of find that. Oh my god, the memes. I can't show you, but the memes. Let's just say it includes Justin Timberlake and a box attached to his groin. We'll leave it at that before we descend into complete smut. And John says, not having a watch I want yet. Yeah, absolutely. Michael says, all of this, just all of it. Kevin says, a coating that chips away. Absolutely. Milo says, mesh bracelets. But why, Milo? Why? They're so comfortable. Tell you what, Milo, send me an email. I'll send you a mesh bracelet and wear it for a week and tell me if you still hate it, okay? My good friend Marvin, who's just released a cracking watch, and you've got to send it to me so I can review. I don't know why you haven't emailed me. Marvin says, watch snobbery. Again, I think the most loathed is watch snobbery and counterfeit watches, and probably fashion watches third. Yeah, absolutely. Eric says tachometer scales, who actually uses them? I agree. I hold my hand up. I've never used them myself, but I do think they look cool. Actually, I'm gonna try and use it at some point. I think I've got to. Robert says bracelets, just bracelets. I guess you don't like any bracelets. Fair enough. Must be a NATO strap kind of a guy. Yeah. Rico says diver chronographs, they look weird unless they have specially designed seals or something, but yeah, good point. I think they look gorgeous. I've owned the Seamaster chronograph. I owned the Bond chronograph. I loved it. I guess you use it on land. Colin says diamond rings. Well, yeah, that's more into jewelry. I'm on the fence about men wearing diamonds. It depends who you are and your style, I think. Some guys can pull off a really blingy watch, other people can't. And there was a lot of diamond bezels as well that came into this. Bat says folded end links. Absolutely, yes sir. Stephen says, I really hate fake crocodile or alligator stamped patterns on cowhide leather bands. I totally agree, and if you've seen my strap videos, I managed to find a genuine, was it alligator or crocodile? But one of the two. It was genuine and it was $50. So looks the business, absolute pure class. If they're about $10 each for these faux croc straps, save for a week or two and get a real thing, have a look back, guys. And we are joined by the NYPD, or the ambulance service, as usual. Corey says, when the 1 and 11 are cut off on the Hamilton Khaki King. Oh, don't say that. That's gonna poison, not poison, but that's gonna, the Hamilton Khaki King, it gets a pass, I think, because it's such a cool watch. It's such a classy watch, but I understand that. David says, poor maths. Since when does 1,000 feet equal 300 meters? Very, very clever, sir. Russ says, JDM Seiko leather straps. Absolutely. Stephen says, not having enough money for all the watches I want and lust after. Absolutely. Well, then again, if you got all the watches, and you didn't have anything to lust after. I think it's like those rich guys that I talked about in a video a while ago who have amazing collections and they don't value it, and it's almost a bit sad. And you know, I said to one of my friends, I said, very nice Hulk, you know, and he was like, a Hulk? Had no idea what I was doing. He thought I'd gone mad. Yeah, I had to explain Submariner Hulk, green. Marco says again, fake patinaed loom. Yeah, I can understand that. You know, some fake or faux patinaed loom is done very, very well. Others are just too much, you know, it's too much. Albert says 19mm and 21mm lugs. Absolutely. Yeah, it's the one thing I loathe about, or truly loathe, and actually I've got to do a 5 loves and loathes for the flighty, about my little, darling little flighty. I don't know why they do that. Why? Just make it 20 or 22, make your mind up. Steve says, my biggest pet peeve is people sucking teeth real loud at the movies. And he goes, oh wait, watches, right? Oh, never mind. Dax says, smartwatches, just smartwatches. Wesley says, watches that do not fit the wearer's wrists. Absolutely, and it's very difficult, especially if you fall in love with a watch that is too big or even too small, but usually too big. I've certainly done it with a few Breitlings in my time before the channel. Abdiel, my good friend Abdiel, says the 4 o'clock or 4:30 date windows. Don't get me wrong, when they're done right, it looks great. But other than the Zin, and I'll put a picture, he says he has not seen another brand do the correct date wheel for this particular date placement. Yeah, even my Navi timer suffers from that, so absolutely. And you know about these pet peeves, these are things that especially you don't immediately notice. It takes months, sometimes years to really, God, that's annoying. I wish they'd change that. C says, super reflective crystals that destroys the look of the watch under certain lighting. Yeah. Kenneth says, I'm not in a position or do not have the luxury to buy a luxury watch. Sad face. Don't worry, Kenneth. Save up, work hard, you can do it. Believe it or not, I used to think the same way. But you can do it, my friend. You can do it. Work hard and stick to your dreams and go for it, my friend. Chris says, Tudors with the fugly square integrated into the first hand. I presume he means the second and or the hands in general. Yeah, surprisingly, a lot of people detest the Tudor hands. I love them, the snowflake hands. I personally love them, but fair enough. Acquired taste, I guess. Jonathan says, crowns that rub the wrist. Eric makes a good point here. NATO straps on luxury timepieces. Yeah, that does get a lot of comments. People worry that it cheapens the watch. If you look at military watches or Sean Connery, but he was using it in a military context, even though he was in a tux. Yeah, divisive one, that one. I can understand what you mean, but I have to say, if you got a $10,000 watch and the spring bar fails, your NATO saves the day, a normal strap would have not had your back as much as NATO. So there are some pros, but I think aesthetically, you know, forgetting about the practicality of it, I think you do have a good point. Wenslew, and I apologize if I butchered your names, he said, great brands of yesterday ditching in-house movements for ETAs while still rising prices and marketing their heritage. Oh, that is a good point. Unfortunately, that is the modern world. What can we say? How dare they? We could do a whole video just on that. Excellent point, my friend. Mike says, a luxury watch jingling down to greet me as I shake someone's hand. So I presume you mean not, you know, loose on the wrist. Yeah, I used to actually really like wearing my watches loose. It's just a matter of preference. But since recently, I prefer a tighter fit. It's just taste, but yeah, I can appreciate that. Johannes says shorthand syndrome. Totally agree. Another one from Wenslew says moon phases, just like Roman numerals, they remind me of old wall clocks. Well, I think that's a good thing. I guess you're more into your modernist style watches. AJ says people that wear their watches dial down or the head of the watch on the inside of their wrist. Yeah. I don't know why you do that, absolutely. Tyrus says, people that wear their watch over their watch sleeve. Not a fan of Antonioni's blow up then, I guess. Yeah, that was a 60s thing. Christian says, people thinking that Pateks are above all. Yeah, I can understand. I don't know why they think that. There certainly are many, many more refined watchmakers and brands out there. It's just, I think, a lack of experience, really. Dave says, wristwatch checks with too much crotch in the photo. He said, yeah. I've never noticed that, but interesting. Jeffrey says, jeweled watches, unless you're Liberace and he's dead. Rich probably absolutely aces it with simple. A watch that can't keep accurate time. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so I think with that, I'll leave it with two of my own. The first one has got to be getting into arguments or offending people over watches. It's the most, I mean, they're just watches. Very, very weird. I guess it's the internet age, isn't it? I don't know why you'd want to argue or get so upset about watches. I guess we're all passionate about them, but then again, we share the same passion. We love the same thing. Completely illogical. But anyway, that's probably my first pet peeve. A lot of these I agree with. Some I don't, as you know. That's the whole point of the discussion. Most biggest pet peeve, and I did actually write this, I said, when people slag off a watch they have never even worn, let alone held. This is a big mistake I see a lot of people make. Same goes for when people recommend watches they've never even seen in the flesh. And I went on to say, watches can be so different in person. I've changed my mind about many watches for both good and bad after finally seeing them in person. And that's why when a lot of people ask me, oh, what do I think of this watch or that watch? Well, if I haven't held it, worn it, I can't say much. I just say, well, it looks very nice. I'd certainly like to try it. Anyway, that is my two personal that I added to the discussion. But guys, as I'm scrolling through this, it really never ends. Outstanding discussion. Now, if you did miss out, please do share your pet peeves down in the comments. I'd love to hear what drives you mad in a not so positive way about your watches. What is your ultimate pet peeves? Please do share them down below. Thank you very, very much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, found it useful. And as always, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Okay, ciao.